Hey, welcome to the Mikey's Video Game Madness Show. Today, we're not really going to talk about much about video games. I know it's been a while. Hopefully, this week I'll have quite a few, not a bunch, but enough. Not that I'm sure a lot of you are anxiously awaiting my videos, but for those of you who do, I really appreciate it. But today's not going to be really video game related, but like I said, there's stuff going on, and I might not be available to make it as might be going to spread my grandmother's ashes this weekend, which is in town. It's in New York, which is like a 9-hour drive. So don't worry though, for all you guys that are planning on to break in or whatever, there's going to be people here to look over everything. So yeah. At first I was like hesitating to say I was going to be out of town, but first of all, who really watches this that's in my town? Second of all, yeah, there'll be people here, so doesn't really matter. Anyway, well, the situation does, and I'm ADD, and I'm already off topic, go figure. So, today's not going to be video game related. This is episode 5. I can't believe we're on 5 episodes. Took me a while to think of a interesting topic. For a while there, I was coming up with one almost every day, but today I just came up with one after quite some time. I'm going to try to put up videos so it won't look like I disappeared off the face of the earth. The key word there is to try. So if I don't do it, don't hold it against me, but I'm going to do my best. There's a lot going on. It's kind of an emotional thing on a lot of different people beside me. I don't always try to think about me. I try to think outside of the, I don't know, the metaphorical box. Anyway, that's my cat. I don't think she knows what's going on. Anyway, if you saw movement there at the on the sign, that was Zoe. There's Zoe now. But yeah, I didn't erase episode 1 or my Assassin's Creed Syndicate video. Those videos kind of dealt with heavy topics, and right now I just kind of made them private because I just don't want to see them right now or deal with answering any questions to do with that kind of stuff. I want to leave it be, and maybe in the future I'll put it back up. I didn't erase them. I don't really like to erase anything because they are journal entries basically. So yeah, they're not erased. I just kind of put them as private for right now just because I don't want to relive some of the topics that I was talking about in those videos for right now. So that's where episode 1 went and still exists. Maybe if I get famous it'll be on the DVD or something. That won't happen. So today we'll be discussing 10 of my favorite horror films. Horror is probably one of my favorite genres. I have a distinct sense of humor, I guess, of what I consider funny. It's kind of weird though because my sense of humor sometimes is very juvenile, and then sometimes I like really dry, subtle humor. But today we'll focus on horror. That tends to be my favorite genre of films. I had to pick 10. There's more than 10 films that I wanted to pick, but you know, I bit the bullet. Maybe I'll go in depth because sometimes there's sequels of these films that I like just as much, but I tried to pick at least one film from each franchise that I like the most. Um, if I didn't pick something that you thought was cool, there's a good chance I was debating. Maybe I'll do another follow-up. I was debating on doing this video and a video of guilty pleasures of like movies that I'm kind of embarrassed that I enjoy, but I still watch sometimes because they're a guilty pleasure and I enjoy them. So without further ado, we'll get to the first one. This is Night of the Demons. It took me a while to find this because they originally had it on VHS. They didn't really have a good DVD or Blu-ray copy. I got this a couple of years ago. Actually, they redid it. Who did it? Scream Factory. They seem to be doing a lot of good work. They I think they were in charge of doing the proper Escape from New York film too, by the way, which I don't have. I just have the bare bones Blu-ray, which looks nice but doesn't have all the bonus features. But I was surprised a good job that they did. I'm not 100% positive. I know that it's a company that doesn't have a lot of money and they kind of get the transfers that they're dealt with, but they're really thorough about getting extras and stuff like that, which I really appreciate. They seem to be fans of the film, but they only get like the transfers that the studio gave them. And I believe, I'm not 100% sure, like I said, that they might have did the 1990 whatever, 1991 I think it was, or it might have been 90s. The Tom Savini remake of George Romero's Night of the Living Dead, since Night of the Living Dead's public domain. Like, there's too many versions to count, even of the original film. There's like one proper version of the. There might be a Blu-ray, I believe, or I know there's a DVD of Night of the Living Dead that has George Romero's commentary on it. I think it's like a tombstone or something. I think it's the only one with his commentary on it. That's the one that it gets confusing with Night of the Living Dead, but there was a remake, and it was actually one of the few remakes that I've seen that have been fairly decent. There's only been a handful of remakes that I've really enjoyed. Off the top of my head, even though later on you find out it wasn't really a remake. I'm sorry, I can't think. Evil Dead. John Carpenter's The Thing was an adaptation, so that wasn't really a remake, but that was awesome if you count it as a remake. And then they came out with The Thing, but that was a prequel. That was bad marketing. It should have been called The Thing. It wasn't a remake. But yeah, John Carpenter's The Thing. Night of the Living Dead was an awesome one. I didn't mind the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. I wasn't a huge fan of Friday the 13th, but it seemed alright. I know there's a lot of mixed opinions, but I did enjoy the first Rob Zombie remake of Halloween because they tried different stuff, which is cool. They actually tried to be creative doing their while following the original film and actually adding more to the mythology versus some of those terrible sequels. Like, I pretty much quit watching the Halloween films after like Halloween 3, which I'm one of the few people on earth that enjoy. Like, the only Halloween films that I own is the first one and Halloween 3. I wouldn't mind getting Halloween 2 because it feels a lot like the first Halloween. And I feel like it feels like a proper follow-up, but that's sacred ground for a lot of people. But anyway, this is Night of the Demons, which also had a remake with Edward Furlong. That wasn't too bad, but it's nothing like this. This is just campy's 80s schlock, and it's like the sets on it almost look like it's a stage play. It looks very cartoony. It's super gory, and it's so much fun. Usually on Halloween, this is one of the films I'll usually watch, and in my opinion, it's superior than the remake in every way, even though I'm sure the effects are more updated. I don't remember much about the remake. I watched it when I first got Netflix, and it happened to be there, and I got excited because at first I thought it was this film. There's an unrated version, and there's an R-rated version. This is the unrated version, which I suggest. There's actually different scenes in the R-rated version, but I think the extra gore and stuff like that makes it so much better. And yes, this film has some strange gory effects. It's almost like a live action cartoon. It reminds me of going into like one of those haunted houses at a state fair ride. I even love the wink wink kind of feeling that it gives you in the beginning, even though it's supposed to be like a legit horror film. The credit sequence is basically a cartoon of like haunted house montages and stuff like that. I absolutely love this, and if you like kind of B quality horror movies, I would definitely check this out. And again, remember, I'm trying to give you 10 of my favorite horror movies, but that doesn't necessarily mean there's more horror movies I like. I just had to pick 10. Trust me, I would have picked more if I could, but I wanted to eliminate myself. I wanted to limit myself. Sorry, my speech is all over the place. ADD's a bitch, yada yada. You've heard it all before. Anyway, American Werewolf in London. The movies I'm covering might be considered sci-fi or horror comedy, but generally considered horror. So if it falls on a different genre, I still consider them horror movies as well. This is a horror comedy. Um, I didn't give you the synopsis of this. Basically, so organized here. Basically, this is about a bunch of horny teenagers that do drugs and drink a lot and stuff like that, and basically get possessed and kill each other, yada yada yada, at this abandoned mansion, and they're trapped in there until the sun comes up and shenanigans ensue, and it's awesome. Anyway, this is about two American hitchhikers that not hitchhikers, but tourists that go and like not the no, they go hiking. I don't know why I wanted to keep on putting hitchhiking into that. They go hiking into like the English countryside, and one of the friends gets killed, and the other guy survives from this wolf that attacks the guy, and then one of the villagers shoots the wolf and it ends up being a human, and the guy starts to have nightmares, and he's warned by his friend that comes back from the dead because you can see ghosts once you have the werewolf scratch you and you end up surviving, and they're warning him that he has to kill himself, and if he doesn't he'll kill more and he'll forever be haunted by the ghosts of his victims and all of this stuff, and he'll keep on hurting people. And at first he's skeptical, and then shit starts going down. The special effects are amazing. Michael Jackson actually saw this film. This is one of Rick Baker's earlier works. Then he became the go-to special effects guy. He worked on the Thriller video, and John Landis also directed this, who directed Blues Brothers. Obviously, this film, another horror film that a lot of people haven't seen that I think is great, is Innocent Blood. Coming to America, Trading Places. We won't mention Beverly Cops Hills 3, even though I just kind of did. I think John Landis is a pretty cool director, and he has a sense of humor. Um, I wish he would go back into directing horror movies, because he always added the right amount of comedy in horror to films, but he kind of got sick of the whole thing. But he directed a few of Michael Jackson's music videos. I believe he directed the black and white music video. But I mean, after Thriller, which was its own special effects extravaganza, I think Michael Jackson's videos were more effects heavy than actually being cool. I think Thriller was like his ultimate music video, in my opinion. We're getting off topic here. But this is a great film. I don't want to tell you what happens at the end. Just wanted to tell you how it starts. I can watch this over and over again. Ironically, this movie, the first time I saw it was on Comedy Central. So I thought it was a comedy film, and it has comedy elements in it, but it definitely has horror movie elements as well. I think more so than the comedy elements, and the special effects are absolutely fantastic. This is Evil Dead 2. Did they put Dead by Dawn on here? It used to have a subtitle. I've owned probably about 3 copies of this film. This is probably my 3rd copy. This is my opinion the best Evil Dead film. I can't wait till August where I actually can see the TV series to see how it holds up against this. I did see the first episode of the TV series, and it seems to fall in line more with Army of Darkness, where it gets more into the comedy area, except the gore and stuff seems to be closer to the first Evil Dead. But yeah, it seems as silly as Army of Darkness. This movie kind of hangs in limbo, where it has comedy and horror elements at the same time, and it's almost a remake of the first film, because in the first film Ash had a 3 other friends plus his girlfriend. And this one, it starts out almost close to the end of Evil Dead, but it's almost like a remake or a different take, a remake that's called a sequel. It's really weird. Although the TV series seems to combine 1 and 2 as being the same film. It's really weird. But I really think when they made this film, they were trying to remake the first Evil Dead with a higher budget, because this one just has his girlfriend in it, who was, this movie's old enough. I can spoil a little bit of it since this is the beginning of the movie, although it's close to the end of the first one. But if you haven't seen Evil Dead, then I don't know what to tell you. Again, the remake slash alternate universe sequel is also pretty good, but not as good as the originals, in my opinion, if you don't mind low budget special effects. But yeah, this is basically a retelling of the last part of the first movie with less characters. His girlfriend's the only other person that goes in the woods with him this time, and then goes forward, and then Army of Darkness is actually a direct sequel of this, even though the tone's a lot more silly. But yeah, so basically, this guy goes in the woods with his girlfriend, and they uncover the Necronomicon, which is the Book of the Dead, and it has all these incantations on it or whatever, and there's a tape recorder, and end up playing it, and the tape recorder has basically translated the book, so the tape recorder reads everything out loud and reawakes all the demons, and shenanigans pursue, and people get possessed, killed, etc., etc., and it's great, and I definitely recommend watching any of the Evil Dead films. This is on a lot of people's lists. A lot of these are going to be cliche. This is The Exorcist. This is the Blu-ray version that has the R-rated version in the original version, but I think is it 3 discs? Yeah, it's 3 discs. So, and then it's bonus features. At first it looked like a DVD, but it's actually a Blu-ray set of all 3 versions. I actually like the extended version with the enhanced special effects, where they kind of took out some of the wires and stuff like that. They subliminally added like images of like that stone demon and stuff like that. But I think this is a great horror movie. I know the director doesn't consider it a horror movie, but I'm going to consider it a horror movie. But it's really a story about good versus evil. The reason why this is so thick, it comes in a nice case. It has a portion of the director's book that just focuses on the Exorcist film. I believe his book focuses on pretty much his whole career in filmmaking. If you want to know more about that, Vinnie Corleone, actually, our dean from Escape to Gaming, actually follows this director and actually talks to him. Sorry, this is all backwards. I know that he's posted things that the director replied to on his Twitter, and he's actually read the whole book. But this is just part of it that focuses on The Exorcist, which is nice. I got it used super cheap, so it looks a lot more fancier than what I paid for it. But this is an excellent set. I definitely recommend getting the R-rated version as well as the unrated version, or what people call it, the version you've never seen before. But yeah, excellent movie. Basically, this girl lives in a house and gets possessed. Meanwhile, the mother's trying to do all these tests and stuff on her daughter, because she's not super religious or anything, so she thinks that maybe she's suffering from mental problems. The doctors give up, and eventually they go to the church, and then with the church, you have to, at least with the Catholic Church anyway, you have to get like approval, and they have to do tests on the so-called possessed person and all this stuff. Actually, recently, the director of this film, I read an article, I don't know how accurate it is, but the director of this film actually recently apparently went to the Vatican and recorded exorcism there, and it apparently kind of made him rethink things or whatever, and he wasn't supposed to be this person with like a who followed a specific denomination or anything like that, and he believed it was real, so that was interesting or whatever. I won't put my little spin on it because I don't even know if the article was real. But yeah, it's an excellent movie, excellent special effects for the time. It's really interesting to watch because it's filmed in a very serious way. a lot of times with horror movies, they try to break up the horror elements by adding jokes and stuff like that in it to make it a little bit more laid back to try to give you a break from the horror elements. This film really doesn't do that. It's an interesting piece. It almost feels like a documentary in some ways because it's just filmed in a way where it just feels realistic and stuff like that. And then you have a priest that's kind of struggling like with his own faith and stuff like that and taking care of his elderly mother and stuff like that, and it's just a really interesting character study from several different characters in the film, and I absolutely love it, and the more I watch the film the more I like it. So if you haven't seen The Exorcist, you should probably see it. A lot of people say their favorite movie is Dawn of the Dead, which I like a lot. It was kind of hard to pick between the two, but I think the characters are more fun in this movie. The special effects are a lot better. A lot of the special effects that you see in this film, if you watch The Walking Dead, there's a lot of homages to this film. Also, the Dawn of the Dead, but a lot of times towards this film because Greg Nicotero, which is in charge of the special effects of The Walking Dead, was basically an assistant to Tom Savini in this film to do the special effects. So I imagine this film is really special to him. Of course, it's a zombie film. This is probably my favorite George A. Romero film. Dawn of the Dead is pretty close to this. I didn't like the remake of Dawn of the Dead, so I'm talking about the 1978. I believe that's when it came out. Original Dawn of the Dead, and this is the sequel or the following movie. The movies are always standalone, and I really like the beginning. Pretty much the movie was supposed to take place in this huge area and all this stuff, but in order for all that to happen, like George A. Romero had to settle for an R-rated script, and he wanted his movie to be unrated because he wanted to be able to show all the gore and everything like that. I think a lot of the ideas from what he originally planned with this game, with like a gated community, and then this other side and Land of the Dead where zombies have taken over. I think that was sort of kind of planned for this one, but back then they didn't have CGI or any way to like make areas look bigger and stuff like that, so it would have been way more expensive. He was going to get the money to be able to make the film he wanted, but he didn't want to compromise, I guess, his basic vision of what he wanted to tell. So even though it's not extravagant, I think the characters are really strong. Sometimes they're cartoon like. The special effects, especially with the gore, is amazing. Don't pay attention to the background zombies. I mean, they couldn't do up every single zombie. There's like all these stereotyped zombies in the background. It's kind of funny. This movie does have a subtle sense of humor in the background, and I just love it. I love the 80s synthesizer music and stuff like that. I would love it if they made a video game that made a zombie game that was based like in the 80s and made it super serious like this one, not like a cartoon game, because I think there were indie games that were sort of like that, but they went back and tried to make it like the game was in the 80s with a synthesizer soundtrack and everything like that. That would be so awesome. I was hoping Land of the Dead would kind of be like that, but it was a movie license game, so obviously it would have to follow the newer contemporary film so much. But I really do like Land of the Dead, but I think since they were so far apart and Land of the Dead came out in a decade, I don't think maybe we'll look back during that decade and feel like there's certain things that define the decade, but there's just nothing I can think of that stood out in Land of the Dead. And Day of the Dead is an 80s film that captures an 80s vibe. I believe this came out in 1985, and it just has a very 80s feel, and I absolutely love it. Even though I don't remember much of the 80s, I tend to love films that come out of that decade, and it's just a great film. I believe that there's a Blu-ray version. I don't know how many of the extras came out in this version, but if this is the only version you can find, it's an excellent version. I haven't played it on my most recent 4K TV. I don't know how compressed it is or whatever, but watching it on a smaller 42-inch TV, the transfer looks really good. But I would definitely look into getting this version if the Blu-ray doesn't have the extras. But I would be really shocked if the Blu-ray didn't have the extras that this version has. Although the only thing I can think of for sure it doesn't have, and that's Dr. Tongue. That's probably my favorite zombie of all time. I believe they made a Dr. Tongue for one of the episodes of Walking Dead. Don't ask me why. This is a 2-disc set. That's why I'm wondering how many discs are on the Blu-ray. This does come with this notepad, but this is really from the people that worked on the DVD. And this movie wasn't well received like Dawn of the Dead was. It actually took a few years for it to catch on, for people started to like it. Because I remember when I watched it, I remember reading that it wasn't very good and all this stuff. But when I watched it, I thought it was fantastic. And even though like Dawn of the Dead is a close tie with this film as my favorite George A. Romero zombie film. I think this edges it out a bit, and I think it's just for the 80s cheesiness, and I also really like the deaths and the special effects in this film. I also like the 80s music, and I only can imagine what the film would have been like if they let George A. Romero have unlimited budget and make it unrated, because the beginning of the film was really cool where it showed outside of Florida and the zombies are running around in the wild. I mean, that would have been a cool film, but as this film is, even though a majority of it takes place underground, highly enjoyable and I highly recommend it. This is Hellraiser 2, Hellbound. Europe actually recently got, I believe, a Blu-ray set that actually has deleted scenes. We unfortunately didn't get it. Maybe we'll get it at some point. Kind of envious of that because there's deleted scenes. On the back of the VHS copy, there was actually a picture of the deleted scene. I think this is slightly more enjoyable film than the first film. I think the first film has some pacing issues. This film goes right back into the end of the first film. It has flashbacks and the pacing of it is a lot more fast and sorry about that. And the soundtrack from Christopher Young is freaking amazing. The special effects, it has some stop motion effects. Some stuff don't hold up well. I have a soft spot for stop motion special effects or special effects from this genre, and I really just enjoy this. I actually like a majority of the Hellraiser movies, even the sequels, even the crappier ones. But Hellraiser 1 and 2 are my favorite, but I think 2 is a little bit better. Basically, 2 takes place after the first film where they open up the box and Christy sends back the demons back to hell. Also, there's a book called The Hellbound Heart that Clive Barker wrote, which is adaptation of the first film. If you're a fan of the films, I would definitely recommend reading it. It's not that long. It's only 90 pages, even though it's somewhat of a thick book. It probably looks like it's more than that, but it's a quick read, and it's an interesting character study of what couldn't be shown on film, because in the book it has a lot of the characters' thoughts and stuff like that. So if you're a fan of the first Hellraiser, I definitely recommend that, and it has an interesting take on the Cenobites that are slightly different than what's shown on screen. This takes place immediately after the first film. All these murders obviously happened in the house. A lot of bizarre shit happened in the house at the end of the first movie, so they basically send Christy to a mental institution, and the doctor is secretly obsessed with the box that's in charge of Christy, and there's like this girl that's super good at solving puzzles. She's like mute or whatever, and her room's all scattered with puzzles, and eventually the doctor finds a puzzle box and gives it to her and opens up the gateways to hell, and you actually get to see the inside of hell in more detail, and it's very interesting, and it's my favorite Hellraiser film. And you get more backstory on Pinhead, and I won't spoil it for you, but it's very interesting, very cool, and if you like the Hellraiser movies, I definitely recommend this. I don't think there's an R-rated version these days you can get. Most of the versions are unrated, but make sure if you get any version of this film, just double check to make sure it's unrated, because you'll miss out if it's not. But I think every version that's on video is the unrated version. And if you're lucky enough to live in Europe, you can watch the deleted scenes, which we never got to watch. Of course, we did because somebody uploaded it to YouTube. This is sort of a sci-fi film, but I think it's a sci-fi horror film. This is The Fly. Unfortunately, it's hard to show because the case is really dark. Took me a while to find this in the wild. I actually had to go to Barnes and Noble, which usually charges an arm and leg for a Blu-ray, but I guess since nobody wanted it, it was fairly cheap. Like if I got it at Walmart or something like that for like $10, I think all I paid for it. The Fly 2 isn't that bad either, even though people like to bash on it, but the first one's superior. First of all, Jeff Goldblum's awesome in it. Gina Davis is in it. Um, I don't know if they ever got married. I know that they were a couple for a time, so the chemistry seems really realistic, and just the special effects and the themes of this film, it just holds up so well. It doesn't feel dated in any way. The special effects are timeless. It's still a very gross film. It's very interesting. David Cronenberg is a fucking genius. I wish he would do more films like this now, but he seemed to go into more serious films or psychological thriller type themes, like one of his films. It's not that recent, but A History of Violence. I actually own it. He did that. That was really good, but it wasn't like a horror film or anyway. It was like a psychological like thriller type of film. But his older horror films like Scanners, Videodrome, The Brood, The Shivers, The Fly, all excellent films. This is great. I can't recommend this enough. I was on a crusade to find this game, and I mean this movie, and I was so stoked when I actually found it. Definitely recommend it. This is the Alien set. I don't have. I did at one point the original Alien on DVD, but we're only going to focus on the first film, Alien. And it's just an awesome film. It's basically like a slasher film in space, but they redid this Blu-ray, and it looks like a brand new film, by the way. That really shouldn't matter. Alien's a classic film as it is. The other films, I think Alien 3 sort of goes back to like Alien, where it's a horror movie. Aliens feels like an action movie. Excuse me. And it's just amazing. Basically, these people go and visit this planet, and shenanigans ensue, and before you know it, I don't want to spoil anything, even though hopefully all of you that are watching this have seen it. Basically, an alien is on this ship, and they're stuck in the middle of space, and they're not soldiers or anything. They don't really have any weapons or anything. They have to improvise about a creature they know absolutely nothing about. It's claustrophobic. The sound design's amazing. The lighting's amazing. Everything about it's amazing. The alien, when they don't shine direct light on it, because obviously, for the most part, it's a guy in a suit. So the last part of the film, when you see the whole alien, it sort of, it doesn't ruin it, but it sort of takes you out of it a little bit, at least for me. But the early scenes, the alien design's amazing, with H.R. Giger, who does amazing work. It's a shame a lot of films cut out his work. Like, he worked on Poltergeist 2. He actually did the tequila worm monster design, and that was pretty fucking awesome, if you ask me. And I believe his designs continued until some of Alien 3, but Alien 3 was its own story. This whole set's amazing. Fox was trying to liquidate some of their stuff out of their warehouse, even though this is a $60 set. I think I got it for $20 because they were just trying to clear up space in their warehouse. because when I got this was fairly new and it was a killer deal, and I think the shipping was free on it too. And I couldn't pass it up. I had the DVD versions, but then when I saw the Blu-ray, it looked like the film was made this year. They managed to redo like the colors and everything like that. Ironically, the oldest film in this set is the best looking film of this set. Um, Aliens doesn't look as good, even though it's a newer film. But James Cameron used a different type of film that contains a softer look to it or whatever. But we're just talking about Alien. Go see it, and if you're into video games and survival horror, would definitely recommend playing Alien Resurrection because it definitely continues the mood of the first film. Can't say enough good things. These are super cliche picks at this point, but I apologize. They're some of my favorite. Speaking of the Poltergeist, I absolutely love this film. There's some humorous moments, and I think that's what makes this film work. Sorry, I can't talk today. Anyway, so basically, these people move into this nice suburban neighborhood, and you know they have little quarrels with their neighbors, and it kind of reminds me of the opening of E.T., where it's super whimsical, and it slowly drags you into this darker tone, and by the end, this film is seriously dark. This is probably one of those films that was responsible for the PG-13 rating. This film, even though rated PG, almost got an R rating. I don't really want to ruin the film just in case some of you haven't seen it for some sick, twisted reason. If you've seen the remake of the Poltergeist, I haven't personally seen it. I know a lot of people don't like it. If you see this film, please do give this film a shot. This is obviously one of my favorite films, otherwise it wouldn't be on this video. I think it's excellent, and I definitely think you should check out the Poltergeist. I need to get the Blu-ray versions of it. I also really like the Poltergeist 2. I don't really like the Poltergeist 3 that much because it lost what made this film so great. And what makes this film so great is it starts out as a family film, so when all the bizarre shit starts happening, no matter how bizarre it is, you're in love with these characters and you believe everything that's sort of happening as you watch it. When you get to the Poltergeist 3, the only person that is in the film is the girl, so you lose that whole family dynamic that they had that made the film work so well. Sorry, I'm so ADD. There's just a lot going on. I forgot the girl's name. I was looking at the back of the case. I could tell you at any other time, but these videos are tough. It's hard. I feel like I'm talking in front of a crowd, especially when I see the numbers over there raise up. I left this bar on the side because people were leaving me messages when I didn't have it up, and I wasn't able to reply. Now that I put the bar up, I can see that people are watching, which I could see before, but now nobody leaves messages, and my whole screen could be filled. But anyway, I'm not bitching, I promise. But yeah, this is an excellent film, one of my favorites, and this is like the most cliche pick ever, but I absolutely love this film. This looks like a bare bones copy, but this is actually part of a bigger set, A Nightmare on Elm Street. I absolutely love the box artwork because any other version you get of this film will not have the original poster artwork on it. Even though it's tiny, you can still see the amazing drawings. And the drawings are super surreal because when the artist actually did the drawings of the film, he didn't really know much about what the film was about. So he always had like this surreal approach to it. So A Nightmare on Elm Street 1 through 5, I don't like the poster for Freddy's Dead. It's super generic, even though I think the same artist might have worked on it, but it's not the same as the other posters that have this surreal nature to it. 5's poster actually had a fetus on as like part of an unborn fetus as part of the cover, but people got offended and they changed it to a baby carriage. So there's two alternate versions. Unfortunately, the DVD case only has the carriage version because that was the most popular version. But even on the VHS tape, it would be like Freddy like telling you to shush with his glove. But anyway, this movie is about teenagers that are mysteriously dying in their sleep. If you die in your dreams, you die for real. This burned man with basically a homemade claw hand goes and kills the people in their dreams, and they try to tell their parents, and the parents are all in denial because this was more, I don't know, this is sort of a statement about how, like, I guess younger, this is also coming out of the me generation, where younger people were kind of ignored and stuff like that, or seemed stupid, and the parents were flawed in their own way and stuff like that. And you find out that the parents aren't as innocent as they were, and that's one of the reasons why that they were in such denial. And I'm giving you the most generic spiel of my last movie, which is kind of terrible, but you know, shit happens. Anyway, absolutely love this. This is a bare bones DVD, but the last disc in the set, and it's kind of a shame they released a Blu-ray version of this, but they didn't really remaster most of it, much of it, or anything. Which is why I still own this and still use this to watch A Nightmare on Elm Street instead of going out and getting the Blu-rays, which I think you can get for about $40 or less, so it's not terribly expensive for a 7 film set. The last set actually has a ton of bonus features, but it takes a unique approach to the bonus features where you play a game that's kind of like Myst with your DVD remote, where you actually have to go down hallways and sort of solve puzzles and go through this maze and stuff like that. And every time you solve something or find a new area, you find a new clip or a bonus feature talking about all different aspects of the film. And it's really the only time I've ever seen that as a DVD extra and a way to access the extras. In some ways, it's annoying because you can't directly access it, but the first time you mess around with it, it was really fun. But yeah, these discs are bare bones, but I definitely recommend tracking down the DVD set that has all 7 films. It's from what I heard, the Blu-rays don't look terribly like more terribly better than the DVD, so I would definitely stick to this version and don't. Well, I mean you can, and it's probably cheaper. I know they have sets that you get like one case about this size, although it would be a clamshell like this side of the DVD that has like at least 5 of the films. You can find this version really cheap that has an individual, even though I don't like that these are made out of cardboard, I would definitely get this, and it's also the only version that has the 3D segments of Freddy's Dead, even though they're not that great. They come with 3D glasses. It's kind of a novelty. And it also comes with a booklet that has the history of A Nightmare on Elm Street. When this set first came out, it was actually $100, but it came out when DVDs were first starting to come out. But I remember just waiting for it, and I actually got this as a graduation gift when I graduated high school when it was a bit cheaper. I think it was $60 around that point. And then I loaned it out to a friend at the time, and then we quit hanging out, and it was to the point where it got kind of awkward, and there's no bad feelings or anything, but it just got to a point where it's like, oh, just let them have it. I saw it for sale for I think $20 used, but like all the discs were in mint condition. RIP Movie Time. They're still in business, but they're going out of business. But when they first opened up, they had a used copy of this set, and I quickly picked it up, and I just was like, I hope he enjoys the set. But yeah, the only benefit of the Blu-ray that I can see is it has 2 episodes from the Nightmare on Elm Street TV show, Freddy's Nightmares, which never got a proper release. I heard the first few episodes. I used to watch it when I was a kid. I don't remember much about it. I've seen a couple episodes as an adult, and they're very cheaply done, and I heard the later seasons had less to do with Freddy Krueger. It was kind of like Tales of the Crypt with a much lower budget. Instead of having the Crypt Keeper, like Freddy would kind of do the bookend scenes, and sometimes he would be involved in episodes and sometimes he wouldn't be. It would have nothing to do with him. But yeah, there's 2 episodes, and I don't even think that they're the origin stories, because the first one that came out, the first episode or so that came out, or one of the first episodes, was called No More Mr. Nice Guy, and it was directed by Tobe Hooper, who directed the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1 and 2, and actually the Poltergeist. It was an awesome director. Of course, since it was TV, it was a bit silly, but it actually told the story of Freddy Krueger's origins and his trial and everything like that. I'm not sure if that's the episode that's on the Blu-ray though. If it's not, that's a damn shame, because they picked any of the episodes, that's the one I would have picked. But anyway, guy kills people in the dreams. Parents aren't as innocent as they seem to be. Awesome, surreal. Effects aren't as amazing as they could be. I sort of like the remake to this because it kind of has better effects, even though I like the original more. I know people hate the remake, but, you know, I'm a Nightmare on Elm Street fan. I enjoyed it for what it was. Freddy was definitely not Robert Englund. Robert Englund will always be Freddy, but I did enjoy the remake. And I actually own the remake, but I didn't pay too much money for it, because, I mean, it's not a movie I can watch over and over again. This one I can, and it's always like the first time every time. But anyway, this is a long ass video, and it'd probably be shorter if it didn't have a lot of ums and likes and me trying to figure out who the hell was in the movie, or trying to figure out a synopsis of it. But, you know, that's part of the show. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it, even though I was all over the place, as I typically am. But thank you, and hopefully there'll be more videos. I don't think I'm going to be doing any more Mikey's Video Game Madness shows anytime soon, as far as I know, at least for the rest of the week. I told you I had the other idea about Guilty Pleasures, but I think this is enough. We're around 47 minutes. That was way longer than it should have been. I apologize for that, but if you do happen to watch this, thank you so much, and I hope you got some enjoyment out of it. So hopefully, if you didn't see any of those movies, maybe you'll check them out, but I'm sure most of you have seen a majority, if not all, of those films. Anyway, take care. There was more movies I would like to have picked, but, you know, I tried to stick with 10. I tried to be strict with myself a little bit. But, you know, if I didn't pick a movie, there's a good chance. If I didn't, excuse me, let me reword that. This is why this video is taking so long. If I didn't pick a movie that you liked, there's a chance that I debated on adding it to my list. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you on the next video, whatever type of video that'll be. Probably gameplay videos. Anyway, take care. Bye.